So now y'all come into my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. Love it that you joined me here on Wednesdays. I have something really yummy to make for you today, and this is so good. It's so great for you to add this into your family's menu, option for your menu. It is a delicious oatmeal bake. It's loaded with apples and cranberries and walnuts and brown sugar and all that goodness, a little bit of cinnamon. It is so hearty and good for you. All kinds of fiber and good stuff for your heart. And we talk in here all the time, especially with the guys on the crew, about our weight and our eating and all the things that we eat. We nibble in here a lot, and it's what happens when you're on a set with a lot of food. So we talk about it a lot. And one of the things that our family has talked about doing this year is trying to add more oats in. It's just so good, and it really sticks to your ribs in the morning. And so this is a really good recipe that I think you are going to love, that's really good for you. And it is, I love my desserts. So if I'm going to say it almost leans toward dessert, if I can say that, then I really mean it. It's really good. It almost satisfies a little bit of a sweet tooth as well. Of course, you could put ice cream with it, but let's not. Let's be good today, okay? Easy. A lot of this you may even have in your pantry, and there's some really flexible add-ins to this baked oatmeal. So if you don't have one thing but you have something else, you can kind of just substitute and mix in, which makes it super easy and flexible for your family. First, I'm going to set my oven to 350. And then let me tell you, this is so easy, y'all. I have 2 cups of oats. Not quick cook, not instant, but just good old-fashioned rolled oats. I know that there are steel cut oats. I've never tried it with steel cut, so I'm not going to tell you that that is an option, but you're welcome to try it and see, if it works. And to our oats, we're going to add in about 3/4 cup of brown sugar. Love brown sugar. Let me get a good spoon for us to stir. I'll do that one. Okay, and before I add anything else in, I want to break up my clumps of my brown sugar in here with my oats. Already, oats and brown sugar smells fantastic, y'all. It almost smells like cookies. I heart cookies. Oh, I threw some. Okay, ready? So, oats and brown sugar. Now, you know what? Okay, let's stick with the things that we are for sure, things that you need to be sure that you have in here. The oats, the brown sugar, baking powder, not baking soda. We're going to do a teaspoon of baking powder, okay? We're going to do 2 teaspoons of good cinnamon, and I use Vietnamese cinnamon. Occasionally we'll have it kind of seasonally around the store at Euna Mae, usually kind of for fall baking. So if you can find Vietnamese cinnamon, get it. It is so fragrant. It's a little bit sweeter and a little bit spicier, just altogether stronger for a really good cinnamony bite. And we're going for it. We're doing 2 whole teaspoons in there, okay? And then just a pinch of salt and a pinch, well, let's just do 2, about a 1/2 teaspoon or so. Okay, so there's our base. Remember how I said there's some things that you can kind of swap around? These are your for sures, okay? Now, what you can do is add in different berries or different nuts. And what I have here is dried cranberries. I love them. We keep them, we throw them in our cereal, we throw them on top of yogurt. If you have dried blueberries, use dried blueberries. If you have dried cherries, which I love, then you can use dried cherries. If you only have random leftover bits of them in bags around your house, combine them all and turn them into 1 cup. Just combine them all into 1 cup. You need 1 cup of dried fruit, okay? So I happen to have cranberries, and that's it. Isn't that so easy? That bite, that cranberry bite in there. You know me, I'm the tart tangy I lean that way, tart and tangy, so that's one of my favorite bites. Sam said, I think I'd like that if it didn't have the berries in it. And I was like, you're going to have to move out because that's my favorite bite. That is my favorite bite, and I'm the cook. So, okay, so you have some options on your dried fruit that you can throw in. And then you have some options on your nuts as well. I have worked on this recipe, and this, I would say try it this way first, okay, before you start to get fancy and start to, you know, substitute and all of that. Try it this way first and enjoy all of it. It's so good. And then you can start to play with a little bit because these flavors are really, really good together. So we've done our 1 cup of our dried cranberries, and then I have walnut, like chopped down walnut bits. Not just chopped because it makes them too big, but the ones that are broken down a little bit further. And we're gonna add a 1/2 cup of those into our dry mix. And then when we come back, I'm gonna show you how we make it kind of custardy, and we throw in our good apples, bake it in the oven. You're gonna love this. Come back, this is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. Today we're making a really delicious, hearty, and when I say hearty, you just wait till you see how chunky and good this is, an apple cranberry walnut baked oatmeal. My husband had a baked oatmeal. This is kind of how I even started thinking about this. My husband had some kind of a baked oatmeal one time when he went to Colorado at a place where he stayed. And y'all, it's been 20 years and he still talks about it. And I have tried. He just keeps saying, no, it had this consistency. No, it does this. It cut into squares. This spoons, it is not cut into squares. But it kind of was the inspiration for kind of coming up with, you know, a recipe that had at least similar flavors to what he liked and enjoyed when he was there all those years ago. So maybe he'll leave me alone about it. I'm just kidding. I love him. Okay, so let me tell you, we have our oven set to 350. We have mixed together our oats, our brown sugar, and our mix-ins. Remember, we did some dried cranberries and we did some walnuts that were chopped down real far. Now, in the recipe, this is so important that you read the whole recipe through before you start. The recipe calls for a cup of chopped pecans, but only 1/2 of that cup is going in this part, and the other 1/2 is going on the top, kind of as like a little topping on the top of our oats when we put them in our pan. So don't dump all of them in, so be sure that you read 1/2 cup is what's actually going in this little, you know, the actual oats mixture. The other 1/2 we're gonna add to the top. If you get ahead of yourself and you mix them all in at once, it is not the end of the world, but that is always one of my absolute favorite and best tips for cooking is always sit down before you start and read the recipe through so you have an idea about where you're headed and what's going to be required of you, so that you don't get kind of caught at the end and you're like, oh shoot, I put the wrong thing in, or I put too much of it in, or I didn't use a big enough pot. That's happened to us all, hadn't it? You get to the end and you're like, oh, I should have started with a much bigger pot because I didn't realize all this was going in. So read your recipe. Okay, this is super easy, y'all. All I had was 2 large eggs in this little mixing bowl. Gave them a little whisk just to kind of, you know, break up the yolks. I have poured in 2 cups of 1/2 and 1/2. I would not suggest substituting with milk on this because it might be a little bit too thin, and consistency is key in this baked oatmeal. Okay, and then I did a splash of good vanilla. Then I'm just taking my cream mixture. I'm bringing my oat mixture back over. It's almost like bread pudding a little bit. It smells a lot like bread pudding. Then I'm just pouring, yum, yum-o. Pouring our cream and our egg into our oatmeal and our brown sugar and our add-ins. Oh, brother, that smells good. Now, what we want to do is let this camp out for a minute. It's going to soften your oats just a little bit. Oh, you can almost drink it. It's so good. So we're just going to let that soak. Now, the chunky part. Apples. I have 2 big Honeycrisp apples that we're going to use. I love pink ladies in here. You want something that's tart and sweet, not just tart. I would probably not use a Granny Smith, which, you know, I love a Granny Smith. I usually put it in my pies, but I'm not going to use it today. You do want them to be a little bit sweet. And what you want to do is cut these down. So I just kind of sliced them off of their core, and then I'm just going to cut them down. You don't have to get super particular about the size or get, you know, all Food Network on yourself and think about your, you know, knife cuts being the same. Just make them smallish, because you do want them to cook through. If they're too big of a cube, then they're going to struggle to cook through. And we do want them to be the same size, you know, small enough that they'll cook. And then what I have, in addition to my oven, you know, being set on 350, is a 2-quart casserole dish. Now mine's a real cute little heart because I love it so much. But you could do any kind of like oval baker. If you've that stuff, you know, that you got when you got married. Something that's kind of deep, okay? I have not done this in a 9x13. I think that would be way too wide and broad, you know, and narrow, like shallow. So I would definitely do something that is smaller and a little bit deeper. I have taken, oh, you're going to need your stick of butter. Half of it we've melted. We're going to pour that in here in just a minute. The other half, we're going to grease our casserole dish real quick. And then pile in our apples on the bottom, lay them in a single layer, and then pour our oats on top. That's it. We'll do that when we get back and stick it in the oven. Then I'm going to show you a really easy homemade granola that takes a lot of these same ingredients, do a little bit of a different spin on it. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We're making delicious baked apple cranberry walnut oatmeal. So good for you, good for your heart, great for your family. And y'all, I'll be honest, we made this not very long ago and we reheated it the second day. It was awesome. You know how some things just almost taste better second day? This was one of them. I mean, it's great when it comes out of the oven, but it is really good after it sits. Now, I'll tell you, this has a long bake time because it's basically like a bread pudding. Remember how we've got over here our oats and our cream and all of our good stuff, our brown sugar? And we've let this kind of sit and soak, and I poured in a half of a stick of unsalted butter. I buttered my 2-quart dish, and then I just spread my apples down around in an even layer in the bottom, okay? So now this has kind of gotten nice and tender. And I'm going to just pour the oats right on top. Oh, it just smells so good. Okay, this is very liquidy. So all the liquid kind of settles to the bottom. The oats are kind of up at the top. Look how pretty that is with the cranberries. So pretty. And remember, we added in part of our walnuts, but we're gonna go ahead now for a little crust on top, extra crunch and texture. We're gonna add in our other half of our walnuts on the top. If you're not a nut person, you're not nuts about nuts, then you do not have to add these extra ones up there, but the ones that are in the oats are delicious, so I hope you'll keep those in there. And then, of course, if you have a nut allergy, you could take those out completely and then just, you know, eat it without. So I'm doing a few on the top, probably not the whole thing. There's an accidental apple right there. Now, 350. This goes in the oven for about 45 minutes because it's a custard. Remember, we've done the cream and the eggs down inside. So I'm gonna set my timer. You know, we did our cream and our eggs down inside, so that has to bake and it has to set up. Okay, 45 minutes. And then when you take it out of the oven, it needs to set up for about 15 minutes. So from the time you pour that into your baking dish and stick it in, it needs about an hour or a little bit longer before you spoon into it. It kind of has to reset itself, you know, all the liquids, and kind of set itself up. And it will thicken a little bit as it cools. If you cut into that, you're going to think you did it wrong because it's going to be liquid. So you need to it's time to set up, okay? Don't Facebook message and say that was a mess and that was all liquid, because I'm going to challenge you on how long you let it sit, okay? It's delicious. It's hard to let it sit because it smells so good. Now, I thought it would be really fun while this bakes to show you my family's quick version of something real similar, almost all of the same ingredients. We make this really good homemade granola that we throw on Greek yogurt with some berries. It kind of like scratches our itch for something sweet. You know, when you just kind of need that one little bite of sweet. We do this granola, y'all. It's really, really good. It's great for a little afternoon, you know, little after school snack, or that 3 o'clock munchy hour where you're just like, you can't wait till dinner. This is a good little healthy option. And again, so many of the same ingredients. So we have oats. You can get the recipe on our website. And then I'm adding in dried fruit. That's cranberries again. Now, where this is a little bit different, you want to do about a cup of nuts in with this, okay? But what I like to do is mix that up because you get a little bit of a different bite, a little texture. Some are more, I don't know, nutty, and some are a little bit more buttery. And so I like to use a half a cup of pecan chips, the little bitty ones, and a half a cup of the sliced almonds. They're just so good for you. And then, because I love it, ooh, I may not have gotten a big enough bowl. We may make a mess. Coconut. I am going to give you my coconut speech for those of you who just rolled your eyes at coconut. All it is natural sweetener. You are not going to taste this. It does not taste like coconut. It doesn't look like coconut, so you can sneak it in on your kids if they don't like it, or your husband, you know, if he didn't like it. Don't tell him. It's good. It's a really natural sweetener. You aren't even going to see it in there because it kind of toasts and mixes in. So don't skip it, y'all. Promise, promise, promise you won't skip it. Then all I've done on the stove is melted 2/3 of a cup of honey with about a half a cup of oil, just canola. I'm splashing in a little bit of vanilla and a teaspoon of honey. And then listen, are you ready for this? All I'm doing after I do my honey is, no, not honey, cinnamon. We're gonna do our cinnamon. After we do our honey, our oil, our vanilla, and a little bit of cinnamon in here, we're gonna toss it in here, coat it, put it on a baking sheet, and bake it for 10 minutes, toss it, 10 minutes, toss it, and then another 5 minutes. That's it, and you've got homemade granola. I'll show you what it all looks like when we get back. This is cooking today. Welcome back. We are wrapping up 2 really great ways to cook oats at your house that taste so good that they just scratch that sweet tooth itch in such a good, healthy way. We have baked oatmeal, apple, cranberry, walnut baked oatmeal that we baked with a little bit of cream and eggs. Oh my gosh, y'all. We are dying in here. It smells so good. We've said it countless times right now that it smells delicious. Look at this gorgeousness. It is sizzling like crazy. It needs to cool for like 15 or 20 minutes or so, so it kind of has time to set itself back up like a custard. It's going to be a little creamy on the inside, crispy on the top, and then those apples have baked. Then all we did, you saw we mixed all of our dry ingredients with our pecan chips and our coconut, and I poured on oil and honey that we melted down on the stove to get it nice and combined. A little bit of vanilla, a little bit of cinnamon, and then just tossed it all in a bowl and put it on a sheet pan. You bake that at 325 for 10 minutes, toss it, put it back in for 10 minutes, toss it, and then just turn your heat up to like 375 or so, and then bake it for just a few more minutes, and it gets that golden, crispy beautifulness. Then, again, with the waiting, you have to wait. You have to wait until it completely cools down. And then as it's cooling, I kind of take my fingers when you can touch it and kind of clump it a little bit crispy, a little bit chewy. And then once it's completely cooled, you can jar it up, store it airtight, and eat on it for days. Hope you will try these recipes at home. I feel sure you're going to love every bite. This is Cooking Today.